If I fast forward now to 18 months ago when I actually started writing this book, vastly different situation. I'm now married. I didn't meet my wife in that cool place where all the single women were at, by the way. I actually met her at work, which I always find to be a bit ironic for a guy standing up here talking about work-life balance. That's where I met my wife. So we're now married. We've got the 4 kids that I mentioned to you, and I run my own business. So life could not be more diametrically different than it was 20 years ago, right? And my epiphany moment there was I had to pick up my wife at the doctor's office because she had to have a procedure that she needed to ride home. And I showed up in my typical fashion like 1 minute before she was supposed to go in because I was trying to do like 1,000 things for work, and I was trying to do like 1,000 things for my life. And I showed up, and my wife looks at me, and she's really good at saying stuff to me that makes me think. She says, "Wow, you look kind of dilapidated." And I remember thinking to myself, wow, that is a strong word. It cannot be that bad. And of course it was, because as soon as my wife went into the doctor, I literally fell asleep instantly in the chair, like literally resting my head on a doorknob of a closet that was next to the chair that I was sitting on. And I remember my wife like waking me up, and the first thing that came to my mind when I woke up was like, holy cow, I'm turning into my dad. And like I said, I love my dad, and he was a great mentor to me, but the one thing my sister and I took note of when we were kids, dude slept everywhere. Like, he slept everywhere. Like, and we used to make running lists of everywhere he was sleeping that was not his bed. Face down on the floor in the family room every Saturday. Sitting in the chair watching sporting events, 90 seconds into the TV being turned on. At sporting events. I literally remember we were at an Angels playoff game where they used to use those like thunder sticks, like deafeningly loud, and I look over and my dad's like out. And I'm like, how is he doing that, right? And what I realized at the time was my dad was not gifted about sleeping. He was just wasted tired. And my dad worked really hard. I tried to reflect on this now in my place as a dad and thought about my dad not as a kid anymore, but as a dad myself. And what I started to look at was my dad worked really hard at his job, and we knew that. But my dad was always there for my sister and me as a dad, and he was a great dad. And so that takes a toll. And so as I thought about my situation where I'm looking dilapidated and falling asleep in doctor's offices, I started to think, this is a classic case of it's not my work eating my life for lunch. It's literally like work and life eating me for lunch, right? It's not sustainable.